Welcome back to the Kyrpton Report. I'm your host, Tyler, and with me is Solo and Jania.
Hi, guys.
Today we'll be discussing Episode 3, Fight or Flight, directed by Dermot Downes. Solomon really liked this episode. He likes all the fighting. I worry about my son. But Dermot Downes is no new name that we should see. He directed episodes of Flash, Arrow, and what's funny is he actually directed Gotham and an upcoming episodes of Legends of Tomorrow. So he's really hitting the DC shows. If only he would have directed Constantine. He would have got all the recent ones. I don't think anybody has hit all of them yet. We've had a lot, but not all. So let's jump in. The episode starts where the last episode ended, where Kara is being interviewed by Cat Grant. Now this really shows Cat Grant's character, because at first she seems very impressed. She's with Supergirl, then all of a sudden she seems smug and condescending to Supergirl.
Yeah.
And she starts to ask her questions, but she doesn't really ask her anything different. She says, she starts to tell her story, and Supergirl's like, I started on Kyrpton, and Cat's like, well, I've heard all this. Well, ask her some questions if you're going to interview her.
Right.
Find out what's different from her to Superman. Is there a connection? Are they from the same planet? Are they this? Don't just, they're sharing the same super name, but just ask her something. Don't just assume something great. So that was kind of like, alright, pain in the butt, Cat.
She's a pain in the butt. This is her characterization.
True. After this episode, I'm more and more convinced that National City must be like in California. Maybe it's near Coast City.
Yeah. Because
they just definitely like, hey, here's some palm trees. Supergirl flies past the palm trees. So I'm like, okay. But I'll tell you what, I really like this episode because this episode's core is the theme of identity. And I think, not jumping around too much like we always do, but this episode really, to me, the character of Kara in this episode represents the show as far as how this show is going to step out. If they had to establish Superman's existence, they couldn't just work around that he's not there. And with this episode, they were able to establish that, yes, he's there, but all the questions of why isn't he here doing this? Why isn't he doing that? Why isn't he this? Really gets answered with, the scene of basically with Jimmy Olsen as well. Like, he states that, he relied on Superman too much to save him. And both of them find their identity that this show is going to be separate without Superman. We don't have to keep asking where he is. There's that really kind of cool shot of him flying down and saving her.
Yeah.
Like a way of showing Superman without showing Superman. And then, of course, at the end where she's instant messaging with Clark, and he makes the comment, don't worry, it'll never happen again. So that's a way of kind of writing Superman out of the show and moving forward. What are your thoughts?
I definitely think that it's cool how they incorporated Superman in this episode. Hello, Jimmy Olsen's Signal Watch. That was so cool.
He was just like, boom, I just pressed this for the bit. It even had a shield on it.
Right? That's so awesome. I wonder who developed that. Cisco, maybe? No, I'm joking.
I liked, okay, we're talking about Superman and we'll wrap up the Superman part. Is that Henshaw actually says, doesn't Superman fight for truth, justice, and the American way? That was really cool because so much of modern Superman comics, movies, everything just drops the American way. And I understand why, but it was just kind of a cool callback that he said that.
Definitely.
It was weird that throughout this episode, she said, the S doesn't stand for this. And she said, was it safety? And I'm like, it's not an S. You said that last episode. It's not an S.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, get it straight. Is it an S? Is it not an S? Make some sense here. Now, yes, the villain of this episode, Reactron, was kind of lame. Well, the name was, the powers were okay. But I like that it wasn't an alien.
Yeah, I loved that it was a human. I loved that it was just a guy who'd been wronged.
That's going to really help with the fact that it's not an alien of the week type thing. There's going to be some different villains. There's going to be some different things. And then we got Maxwell Lord big time in this episode.
Definitely.
And it showed that him and Kat have some sort of a past together. So, and I just don't want Maxwell Lord to end up being like some lame Lex Luthor ripoff type character.
Yeah.
I think, it's very hard to not fall into those tropes at times. But we'll see where he goes. He could be really interesting. Now, when she was fighting Reactron, all I kept thinking is, could they do Metallo? Like, would that be really cool to see? It's a Superman villain, but I'm okay with Supergirl fights Metallo, or Metallo comes to being maybe in Supergirl now that, because we know that Kryptonite's really rare. So, I don't know. I'm open to that. But you know what my favorite line of the episode was?
What?
Is when Jimmy is talking to Karen. He's like, Reactron almost killed Clark. And Wen goes, Clark? And he goes, shakes his head. I was like, oops, Jimmy. Just busting out the Superman secret. And then Wen's like, Clark Kent is Superman? Clark Kent is like, you just see his eyes. He's just like, oh, wow. He's like, my whole world has changed.
That was pretty awesome, honestly.
And my second favorite is when Maxwell Lord's like, I need a Dr. Pepper. I'm thirsty. I was like,
Product placement.
Product placement and refreshing beverages. So I liked, the fight. I did like, I think it's ironic that now Kara now has two bases. They have a little office downstairs in the Catco where her, Jimmy, and Wen are for Team Supergirl. Then we have the base for Team DEO Supergirl.
Yep.
Now, you said this, and as only a woman would, Wen is so friend-zoned.
He is. That poor guy.
He is.
Oh, there's going to be so much heartbreak there later.
Man. I was just like, poor guy. Oh, he's screwed. I did think it was interesting just comparing Supergirl as like the millennials hero and the whole conversation about just that generation and just where she takes her cues and everything from. I thought that was cool. This episode, I like the fact, like, it's funny. I like that when she wore a green dress to the ball.
Yeah.
Instead of being tacky, like, let's put her in blue. Whatever. Ball.
It's not a ball, guys.
Okay.
It's not Cinderella, Tyler.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry.
Green dress to the party.
Well, I mean, they didn't put her, like, in blue or red or anything. They were like,
or anything cliche.
Yeah. They were like, we'll just make it green. Like kryptonite. No, the effects of the show are just awesome. Like, they do such a good job with just the way her landings, her takeoffs, her fights.
I love how it really hasn't changed much since the pilot, Remember how I talked about with the pilot being so theatrical? Sorry, yes. I'll get it out of my mouth one of these days. And how cool it was visually, I'm so glad that they were able to keep that for each and every episode so far.
And I agree. I feel that it's keeping up the quality. Sometimes shows the pilot is this cinematic great achievement, and then each episode gets less and less. And we haven't reached a bottled episode yet.
Right.
Now, two more big points with this episode. One, we see Henshaw with the red eyes again, and he says Agent Danvers. And if you really watch this episode, it's almost like he's got dual personalities.
Yeah.
Because sometimes he seems really hard, mean, and like when he has the red eyes, he seems like maybe something's going on. And then he comes back and pulls back, and he's really kind of nice and caring. And I'm wondering, is he a cyborg? Is there something going? Is he an alien? I don't doubt he'd be an alien. But, I'm kind of curious more about how they're going to go with who he is.
Yeah.
And they haven't really, like I said, that was another one for the second episode for him to get the red eyes. It's like, they're just going for it. They're really just moving quickly. They're not really building as much. They are, but it's just really fast.
It is. It's very fast. That's one thing about the show that I'm really, really hoping doesn't happen. I really don't want them to do too much at one point, or like at one time, and then, halfway through the season or, halfway through the series, you're just kind of like, wow, what's left? There's not a whole lot left to it. There's not a whole lot more that they can do that's going to be interesting and keep people wanting to watch.
Exactly. I mean, in the opposite, like where Constantine had some pacing problems where you were just trying to like build up the universe, thicken things up, this one's like throwing so much at us so quickly. I just don't want to see it get burned out quickly because I think it has a really good, longevity and can be done really well. Like, I'm digging it.
No, I'm really enjoying what they're doing. But I don't want them to get to the point where they have to start using a lot of Superman stuff,
Exactly.
And then you're going to lose it. You're going to lose what Supergirl's all about. Especially what they're trying to make her about right now.
Exactly. Like I always said, I wondered if they were going to do Superman or make Supergirl kind of the Superman character.
Right.
Now, the last thing on this episode was we got a new character. At the very end, another kind of callback connective tissue. We had Lucy Lane.
Yep.
Played by Mrs. Channing Tatum.
Mrs. Channing Tatum. That's her name.
Yep. She doesn't have a first name.
She's a good actress. I'm glad they brought her in. And she's believable as Elaine, in my opinion.
And I agree with you. I mean, I watched that Witches of Eastwick with you. Eastwick or East End?
East End.
The show's East End. Eastwick's the movie. My bad. But I watched that with you, and she did a good job on that. So, and I think it's interesting that, her and Jimmy have a previous love affair, which kind of sadly blocked Kara and her, desire to ask out Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of out there now that Jimmy, she has a crush on. So we have what'd you call this? A love square?
A love square, yeah.
You have Kara who likes Jimmy who likes Kara and Lucy who likes Jimmy, and then Wen who likes Kara.
Just very confusing situations, let's just call that.
So who gets the crap into the stick? Wen.
Yeah?
No wonder he might become a supervillain one day.
Poor guy.
So that's it for this episode. There's been no other news. We covered it last week with the casting, and no more anything from Kyrpton, the TV series. We got, let's see, anything else really exciting going on in the Man of Steel? Still waiting for more BVS news. Hasn't been a lot revealed more about Superman from the movie. It's been more about Batman.
And believe me, guys, Tyler is watching very intently and paying attention to that. I wonder what he's doing all the time, and he's on his phone watching out for, Batman vs. Superman. Or Batman v Superman, sorry guys.
I made Jania go to the movie theater just to watch the trailer.
Yes, but you know what? I actually wanted to.
Yes, she did, because she's awesome. But that's it from us here at the Kyrpton Report. We'll get news for you. We're working on our plans for a summer series when Supergirl's off. And we look forward to hearing you. Hit us up on Twitter and on Facebook. See you guys later.
Bye.